I was in music and the arts all my life, as Dave was, and I had my own aspirations. I liked to sing. I thought I wanted to do music, and then I decided to get a real job. And so I dated and married a musician, and I thought I understood what a musician was. And at one point, I went to this um, bar in Chicago. It's a long way there, but it gets there. And saw this musician that was a percussionist that was incredibly odd in what he did. And I came home and I told Dave about it, and you almost wanted to laugh at him, but yet you enjoyed what he did. And it was different than what I'd ever seen. And I'm telling Dave about it, and Dave says, Lee, it's performance art. And I had spoken to the man and kind of understood a little bit of where he was coming from. And that was the moment when I looked at Dave and I said, that's your life. I can't take that away from you. It's like when I had that experience of seeing that musician and how that was all his life, that performance art he did, and Dave and I talked about it, I said, that's what you'll be forever. That's who you are. That was everything of Dave. He thought of everything in a musical way. He sang songs all the time. He made up different words to songs we know, and some were kind of not very nice. They were a little dirty. And he made songs up for the dogs. They all had their own songs. He would write for them. He sang in the grocery store to the music in the background. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. That was him. That was Dave. Kind soul, respectful guy, very sweet. In 25 years, I think he got mad at me twice, which is pretty amazing, because I know I can be annoying like everyone can sometimes. He really got mad at me twice. And he loved food. He loved people. He loved the earth. Loved the birds and nature. He was a person that just saw people for who they are, you know. It didn't matter what you did or how successful you were or how much money you had. He just saw you for who you were and respected everyone. And that's very admirable, I think. I hope to do that in my life. He rubbed off on me a little, I think, you know. But funny guy, too. Dave had a great sense of humor. We would go to Super Bowl parties every year at the Mackey family, at the other Mackeys, and he's coined several terms that we've used throughout the years. One was unnecessary interception. You know, the other guy intercepts the ball and he just yells out, unnecessary interception. And we just die laughing. It was just so clever, you know. He just had a mind that was very clever.
Dave and I were over at, we were at some party until the wee hours. It was probably, I remember he was driving me home and it was light. And he had this old Chevy Love truck. This thing was a piece of shit. It was really bad. It was rusted. Lights were busted out of it. I mean, and we got pulled over by the state cops. Now, Lee was with us at the time, too. I don't know, I'm sure she remembers it. She can't forget. So we get pulled over, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to jail because, you know, we'd been up all night partying. So the state cop comes up to the window, and Dave rolls his window down, and the guy goes, you know why I pulled you over, don't you? Dave goes, no. He said, well, you got bald tires, you got lights out. He said, this thing is not roadworthy. You need to get it fixed. And Dave said, well, you're getting kind of picky, aren't you? And then right there, that's when Lee's hand came across. Whack! Getting kind of picky. I thought for sure we were going to jail then. The guy said, I don't want to see this on the road again. And he left. I'm like, what? Exactly. Wow, getting kind of picky, aren't you? He had balls the size of Texas, man. Either that or he was really, really drunk. I think it's both.
Well, David would go through these phases. See, I've been around just long enough. I didn't know him when he was a small child, but he was 6th or 7th grade, I think. So I did get to kind of see him grow up. So I think I can safely say that David went through some phases, and when he would, or maybe phase isn't the right word, whatever, interests, where he would have these interests, and it was full blown. When he was a vegetarian for a while, and Effie cooked him special meals on special plates and everything, where she would have told the other kids probably to
Dear David,
do it yourself. But one of his phases was kind of this very evangelical kind of religion. And I mean, religion, I think, had always played a part in the Mackey family. They all went to church and everything, but this was a little over the top even for Ev, and she had some concerns about it being a cult or something kind of out of line. So she wanted us to talk to him. Why she chose us, I don't know, but so we picked him up at the old YWCA after one of his meetings, prayer meetings or whatever they were. And there were a couple other kids with him. I don't remember. For some reason, I think one was Kay, but there was a girl there, but I'm not sure. But he had the little button, with the hand, the one-way thing, and his Bible. And so Phil, very gently, I must say, said something about, so David, what is this thing that you're into? And David kind of explained a little bit, and then Phil asked another question, which was too much, I guess, because that's the point at which he said, there will be persecutors. So that one came back to haunt him over the years. I will tell you, I did pull that out of my bag of tricks a number of times. But yeah, he was really full-blown into that for a while. He did. I don't think it lasted terribly long, but while he was in it, he was in it. I don't think that our intervention had anything to do with him growing up.
That was his, his personality. I mean, again, he took a moral stand on issues, and as I said, it was, most of them were reasonable, but as a young child or he was an adult, a teenager or a young teenager, he didn't have the perspective back then, but it was an indicator of his personality. And the other part of your question related to burning CDs. I mean, he always said that live music is the best music and recorded music is second best. And if you're going to listen to recorded music, you have to respect the artist, and you had to pay for the music. And I don't recall who the artist was, but I had a bootleg CD, and I offered to burn him a copy of it, and he said no, he wouldn't accept a burned CD of music. That he would, if he decided that it was worthy of him to listen to, he would go buy the music, and he stayed, I think, pretty true to that.
Yeah.
I think there was a little burning that went on, but for the most part, I mean, he really thought that the artists, needed to be paid for their music.
There was a lot of musical moments, and it's hard to pin one down because there was so many times when you get in the zone musically, and you have to communicate a band, one another, with each other to have the whole thing gel. And lots of times I'd look at Dave, or he'd look at me, or anybody in the band look at Dave, or they'd look at him. I mean, we played in a band with Dave, you weren't just playing your part, you were playing together. Yeah, or he'd stop it. We're not playing together there, we at rehearsal or something, it don't sound right. I mean, and so at rehearsal we would work on that. But you'd get on stage, and it's like being in another world. I tell people that aren't musicians, and I'm not a runner, but it must be like a runner's high. And to get in that with somebody else you know is even better. You're both in the same mental high there, and all there is the music. There's no audience or there's no instrument between you, but you both know that song, and you know how you're going to play each note, and it's like you're one there.
I guess some funny memories of Dave. I remember we were playing up north for a New Year's Eve, and Dave had a reputation for snoring very loudly. I stayed in a room with him one night, and I never slept. He just snored really loud. But I remember getting up in the morning and going down to get ice in the hotel and walking down the hallway, and these two girls walked past the room, and Dave was just snoring. And they were, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's coming out of that room." You know, it was pretty funny. He snored really loud. So usually Tim got to stay with David because I think they both snored pretty loud.
I think Dave had a unique quality that not many people have. We'd like to think that we do, but we don't, of saying what's on his mind, whether he thought somebody else agreed with him or not. And whether I've been in groups of business people or whether I've been, when I was a singer and dancer many pounds ago, down at Six Flags, this came up too, where usually the best efforts have people that don't agree with each other all the time. And that disagreement is healthy, and it makes you take a look at what you're thinking. And you may decide, yep, I don't agree with you. Or you may decide, yeah, you know what? That's a different way to look at it. And I think having somebody like Dave a part of your family, a part of your music group, a part of your business, is an incredible asset. And I think that's how I remember him, is not afraid to say what's on his mind, and that made me better, that made our band better, that made, I'm sure, family members better. Again, you don't have to agree with him, and he was fine with that, but having somebody that says what's on their mind and be passionate about it and confident about it raises the level of professionalism and dialogue. And I think that, you know, I could talk about specific instances, but I'm trying to look at like the 30,000 foot view of, you know, when I look down, you know, what's the big picture? And I think that, for me, is the big picture. I'm also going to remember it as incredibly talented. But, you know, talent, I think, does reach out and makes people's lives happier, and he certainly did that. He made my life happier because he brought my music to life. Without Dave, you know, personally, I wouldn't have had the CD. I wouldn't have had that much success. He took an idea or a sketch and painted a Monet for me.
I think, like my dad, he was Mr. Honest and integrity, and David would speak the truth, even if it was going to piss somebody off. If he saw something and understood it one way, then he would say so. He wasn't going to keep his mouth shut or keep it buried just because somebody else might not like it. But at the same time, he was sensitive to people's feelings and could be really tender and sweet, and he had that kind of strange sense of humor that not everybody understands, but I don't know if it's a Finn thing or a Mackie thing or what, but yeah, I thought he was a funny guy.
You know, Dave was just, you know, he was just totally motivated by music and, you know, just, he was, you know, he's just captured by it. He just had to do it, and that's what he loved. And there's just nothing to talk about. You know, Dave could have done a whole host of other careers. He was a smart guy, you know, and this is why he woke up in the morning.
To me, Dave was, I thought Dave, during his life, from what I could see, he was an example to follow. I felt very much like a kindred spirit because he was very confident in what he did. He was doing what he loved to do. And he had a wonderful relationship with Lee. And ultimately, I always got this sense of Dave, like, life's pretty good. We're having a pretty good time here. And he was one of those people. To me, there are people that, like, try to form life to their expectations. They try to mold life. And there are other people that are more just like myself, that are just more sort of go with the flow. And Dave struck me as one of those guys. And he was always such a gentleman. I mean, he truly was a gentleman and a gentleman. And that to me is a sign of higher evolvement or evolution, evolvement, if that's a proper word, as a human being. I mean, if you're to that level, you've learned a lot while you're here. No matter how long you've been here, you've learned a lot.
You know, one of my best memories is, and I am feeling it right now, at Van Buren Youth Camp, at Van Camp, with the sunset and the lake on the left, and there were these wooden steps that led up to the lodge. And pretty much every evening, we would kind of just meet up there. It wasn't really a predetermined time or anything. We just sat on those steps, and with Jeff Bond, I think, and Buddy Zimmerman and Dave, and just sang a cappella, sang and harmonized together, just all-day music, whatever song we could think of. And just the purity in that was really, really special. My memories of Dave are across a band room, across a car seat on a freeway, across a stage, in a practice room, working on something, getting it right, getting it perfect, in a stage band, on a grade school playground. You know, just his presence, he was so solid as a friend. And you could count on him, and you could count on him caring deeply about whatever it was he was creating. And just being a part of that was an honor for me. And I can't begin to figure out how to say thank you for it.
Dave's courage throughout his disease was remarkable. And we will all face some kind of trial or disease in our life. And I hope I can be 1/16th, have the courage that he did, and the kindness, and how he approached that, and how he allowed us to be part of that. And I realized that the last year or so of Dave's life, we all spent a lot of time together, and we probably should have started that years before. We always did things together, but we probably should have started years before. And I hope that I have the courage like he did. And I know that there is some place that we continue this journey on, and I will see him there. I have so many memories of Dave. One of my very favorites is from the last month or so of his life. And I spent a lot of time with Dave then.
a lot of doctor appointments and afternoons. Sometimes we talk and sometimes we just sit and be often out on the front porch. And it was one of those afternoons where we didn't seem to need anything to say to each other. So we had been sitting quietly, and it was afternoon sun that came and shone on his face, and he turned his face into the sun and closed his eyes. And I won't ever forget that moment. And whenever I have the sun in my face, I remember that blessing. And I think Dave experienced it. I know I do. Think of him every time.